The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It with your host, B.J. Williams.
We have a great show for you today, including a talk with John Calvin Womack, who is the author of Once Upon a Highway, Route 66 in Oklahoma. But first, Ruby Soutier and Julie Ballou would like to tell you about a cookbook you can check out at your library.
Hi, today we're here to discuss Read It and Eat by Sarah Gardner. And the thing that I think about this book is how can you go wrong with a book that has such a great title? And I was not disappointed at all when I opened up the book and the author in her introduction says that she was a literature major in college, but she lost a lot of the respect of her fellow students and her professors because she wanted to discuss when studying Jane Eyre, what Oprah would have said about a married man who kept his crazy wife locked up, and that's who Jane was dating. So I knew that I was really going to enjoy this book, and this sets the whole tone of the book, which is not about deep literary analysis, but it's about enjoying books with friends.
I agree. I love the approach of this book. It's very light and fun. I enjoyed just browsing through it. Reading some of the descriptions of the books and the questions to go with them made me want to reread some old favorites or read some books that I hadn't read before. This book's actually set up to be used for book discussions. It's divided by monthly themes, so there's concepts like Valentine's, Irish titles for March, children's classics, wedding, travel, summer reading, banned books, classics. It includes everything from, the Odyssey by Homer to Fast Food Nation. And there's a listing in the back of all the books that are included. It's got a great index. There's a description of each book, which kind of just gives a synopsis and also talks about why she chose that book and what it kind of why it was meaningful to her. It also includes questions for discussion, and there's a variety of questions. Like on Harry Potter, it included questions like, does this promote Satanism, to how do you pronounce Hermione? So just a little bit of everything. And of course, then with each chapter, there are some recipes that are tied to the books that they talk about.
I'm glad that you mentioned the recipes because, discussion groups and literature, that's all great. But let's get down to the nitty gritty and the recipes, which of course is my favorite part of the book. And I tried several of the recipes. I tried a recipe for Georgia peach bread, which is from Gone with the Wind. I also tried a recipe for wassail punch, which was from an M.C. Beaton novel that was done in December. And then I also tried a fish and chips recipe that was from a Sherlock Holmes Hound of the Baskervilles novel. This book, Read It and Eat, is great for book clubs, and it is available at your public library and perhaps your local bookstore.
Well, Doug Benton is with me now, and that comes to my favorite part of the show, where I get to...
well, you get to talk.
I get to talk.
That's your favorite part.
Not only that, you have to just ask intelligent questions.
Oh, I'm out of it then.
Okay. Well, the most recent book I have read is something called Chains of Folly. It's by Roberta Gellis. You've never heard of her. I think she has mostly written historical romance of actually, if I can say it this way, an intellectual kind. I mean, real historical research. She has a couple of periods that she favors. One of them is 12th century England. The detail is good. She knows what she's talking about and understands the politics of the times and so on. Recently, she's been writing a series of murder mysteries set in this 12th century England.
Oh, okay.
And Chains of Folly is the fourth one. I have to say that it was published in late May and it's already out of print. So if you want, it's been a couple of years since the last one. So if you want Chains of Folly, you're going to have to go to a library to get it. The setup is there is a whore mistress who rents an old priory guest house from the Bishop of Windsor in the town of London. The whoremistress is obviously has been a noble lady at some point in the past. She's got a very murky background. The knight who is interested in her, Sir Bellamy, is hired by the Bishop of Winchester to form part of his guard and run errands, that sort of thing. So here we've got the Bishop of Winchester, who is the brother of King Stephen, who was the king at the time. We're getting ready at this point to go into a really bad time in England. It was said of this time period when Stephen was king that God and his angels wept because Stephen was not a good king, and every little tin-pot lord with 5 knights to his name thought, I can take my neighbor's castle.
No. I would guess a lot of our viewers have never even heard of King Stephen.
No, they have not. He's what you've heard of Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine. Well, King Stephen was a relative of theirs, and he actually seized the throne from Henry II's mother, who was the rightful heir to the throne. But nobody wanted a woman. I mean, what are they good for? But he wasn't really strong enough to hold it. There was 15 to 20 years of civil war, a really vicious civil war at the time. These are set right before that really gets started, but the Bishop of Winchester being the brother of King Stephen, a lot of politics is involved. And Chains of Folly starts out when the Bishop of Windsor comes back to his London home and discovers a dead prostitute in his bedroom. This can cause all kinds of problems.
It usually does.
And
Always
usually
has for me.
Right. So Sir Bellamy and his sometime lady love, he's having a little trouble with the fact that she does run a whorehouse, get involved in trying to figure out who the prostitute was, who put her there, who killed her, and so on and so forth. Entertaining characters. I think this is why most people read it. It's very accurate historical background. You're not going to find any ashtrays being thrown across the room in Gellis's books. So I would recommend it for anybody who's interested in the medieval period or just likes a really good mystery with entertaining characters. So Chains of Folly, Roberta Gellis. You will have to check it out at the library.
Okay.
So coming up next, M.J. Van Deventer of the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum will be talking with Linda Hanneborg of Express Personal Services about a book she has recently read.
Linda, welcome to Read About It.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, it's fun to have you here, and you're reading Marcus Buckingham's book, Now Discover Your Strengths, and you're in love with the book. You're sort of an ambassador for the book, and the author's pretty cute too.
He is indeed. This has been such a fun thing, MJ. We at Express Personnel Services actually ran across this book, and it is directed to any individual, really. It's a simple thing where you go in and you read the first 4 chapters, and Marcus, who is not only an author but a vice president at the Gallup organization, has tremendous background behind him, that he has discovered 34 strength finders, of which each of us has 4 or 5 strengths that we excel in. And after reading the first 4 chapters of the book, you go in on the internet and you take a little test, about 20 minutes, that determines very quickly what your strengths are, and in the area or in the categories of your strengths. So your number 1 strength might be that you have positivity, or you are a person that gives a lot of input, or you're an achiever, things like this. It's an opportunity to truly revolutionize not only our lives but the business world, because once you learn what your strengths are, then you can capitalize on those.
What would you say your strengths are? What did you learn from the book?
Well, I'm not going to tell you what my strengths are because I'm going to give you this book as a gift, and then we're going to guess each other's strengths after you go in and take your test. But,
oh my, this is going to go on forever, isn't it?
you can imagine that one of my strengths might be what's called woo, winning others over, because I like to talk a lot, and I'm thrilled to be here today. And it is one of my strengths. It's not my number 1, but the great thing about the business world that this is a good opportunity for is that once you determine your strengths, then your employees or even your supervisors if that also is the case, then each of you can really excel based on what your strengths are. And once you know your employees' strengths, you can really dedicate your future with that employee on concentrating on those strengths.
Well, another strength that you have is that you are directing a very important project at Express, a biography on your boss, Bob Funk.
Yes, we have actually 2 books in the works, so we're going to get to experience the other end of the book, being publisher, author, and all of that. But the book on Mr. Funk is called Bob Funk, Doctor of Hope, and it is coming because he often says we are doctors of hope because we are able to put so many people to work.
That sounds wonderful. So, of course, you'll have to come back and see us.
I would love to do that.
And thank you for sharing this important book with us today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Morris, Executive Director of the Metropolitan Library System. 2007 will mark Oklahoma's centennial year. 100 years is a long time, but public libraries have been part of this community since the very beginning. And we're still exactly the same as we've been all along, your primary source for information and entertainment. The delivery methods are different now than in the early days. Today we provide free wireless access, free internet access, DVDs, CDs, free programming for people of all ages, along with the traditional books, magazines, and newspapers. But what hasn't changed is our dedication to helping you find exactly what you need. Librarians continue to be the guides to the up-to-date world of information, and our librarians at MLS are the best in the business. So visit your neighborhood MLS library soon, and as they say in the world of libraries, come check us out.
Doug and I are back, and that means Doug is going to tell me about a book he's read.
Yes, I will do that. It's called Cut, with an exclamation point.
Knives?
No.
No.
Although there is a picture of a knife under a woman's chin on the cover of the book. It's about movies, okay? You know what that means.
Yeah.
It's subtitled Hollywood Murders, Accidents, and Other Tragedies. And it's a collection of very short pieces, usually no more than a page and a half or 2 pages, with lots of pictures, talking about people who died young, died unfortunately, died under strange circumstances, who are connected or were connected in some way with the movie business. You know, James Dean is in there with his automobile accident. He's probably one of the better known. Marilyn Monroe's death. Was it suicide? Was it accidental? Was it murder? You know, who do you blame?
Right.
That kind of thing is in there. But there were some lesser known characters who I think are particularly interesting. One of the things I dislike about the book, though, is if you were under the age 60 when you died, they put you in here as if that were, you know, some kind of a horrible thing. And it is, I suppose, but it's not necessarily a tragedy. For instance, Ward Bond is in here, a great character actor from the 40s, 50s, and into the 60s, is listed there just because he died of cancer when he was in his, how old was Bond? 57 years old. There is an interesting story about him, though. It said he was doing a television series called Wagon Train.
Oh, yes.
At the end of his life. And he had an appointment to see the singer named Johnny Horton, who was a country singer at that time, Western singer, to offer him a part on Wagon Train. And Horton was killed in a car accident that morning, and the day, and Bond died of cancer that afternoon.
Oh, good Lord.
It wouldn't have worked out. They were fated not to work together. And there were some just generally kind of sad stories. An actress named Clara Blandick.
Never heard of her.
I know. Nobody knows who she is. She was in the movies for 40 years, made 120 pictures. If anybody knows her at all, they know her as Auntie M in The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
She lived into her early 80s and was just in miserable shape physically and committed suicide. And that's a sad story, but I don't know that it really belongs in a book that's obviously trying to be very sensational when you look at that cover art. Thelma Todd is in here, a great comedian of the 1930s who may have died accidentally, but a lot of people think she was murdered by the mob. She owned a restaurant, and the story is they wanted to put gambling in her restaurant, and she wouldn't allow it. She turned up dead. Elizabeth Short is in here. You know, have you ever heard of Elizabeth Short? She was 23, better known as the Black Dahlia.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a movie coming out about that case later on. Really a nothing little starlet who was murdered in such a way that was pretty
Pretty gruesome,
ghastly,
yeah.
and no one has uncovered the murderer to this day. A better known victim of ghastly murder is Sharon Tate, who was only 26, and she's in here, of course, was murdered by the Manson people.
Well, it sounds to me like it's the kind of book that I like to keep by my on my coffee table. When I've got a few minutes, I can pick it up and read 2 or 3 things.
Definitely you wouldn't want to sit down and read all 300 pages of this thing back to back.
But think of the wonderful cocktail conversation that you can get out
You'll
of
get
it.
a lot of trivia out of it, that's for sure. But again, it's called Cut, Hollywood Murders, Accidents, and Other Tragedies. I don't know how they've got it in by author because there is no credited author. It was published by Barron's Corporation, so it may be under Barron's. But it's at your library, so take a look at it.
Great. Thanks, Doug. Coming up next, we have Ronna Davis and Kelly Rhea. They'll be telling us about a book for our young adults.
Hello, and today from the Edmond Library, Ronna Davis is here. She's the teen librarian as well as many other things. She wears a lot of different hats.
That's right.
Today she's brought a book called Bella at Midnight. It's by Diane Stanley. So when you started reading this book, why did you think it was like a fairy tale?
Because it wasn't exactly realistic, and it took place in medieval times, but there wasn't anything historical that I could relate to, and there were references to things like fairies, and not in a realistic sense, not like there actually were fairies, but at least many of the characters were kind of similar to characters in fairy tales. So-
Well, and it mentions kind of that class structure of peasants and royalty and nobility. So, you know, we don't do that nowadays. So to me, when I actually read it, that was the impression that I got.
Right, I mean, it was the same structure, the same idea, just as you said, that is used so often in a fairy tale. And as it turns out, this book is really a takeoff or a kind of a new take on the Cinderella story.
Really?
Which becomes more and more apparent as you go on in the book, and actually seemed more and more clever to me as I went on reading it.
But it's different from the Cinderella story.
Yeah, it's a different name. For one thing, Bella is not Cinderella, but there's Ella, you know, in there.
All right. See, I didn't get that. but
Yes,
thank you.
and it has to do more with, there's a lot more to do with women's rights in this book than you would find in the Cinderella story, and the oppression that these people go through, the women go through, is very apparent at the beginning of the story, and the way this is turned around is really quite amazing at the end.
I thought Diane Stanley did a really good job.
Yes.
Because it was kind of slow to get started.
I
Once
agree.
I got through a few of the chapters, it kind of lightened up or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a teen who's going to read this book has to have some patience and let the story kind of unfold. But once it does, it just picks up and gets going faster and faster.
It kind of twists at the end. I didn't expect some of those things.
Oh yeah, the twist is just very unusual.
It makes the slow start worthwhile.
I think so.
Yeah, it sure does. It's called Bella at Midnight. It's by Diane Stanley, and we know you'll enjoy it. Please find it at your local bookstore or at your favorite library.
With me now is John Calvin Womack. He is on the faculty of the School of Architecture at OSU. He taught at the University of Arkansas. Before that, you were an architect. You grew up in that state over there, Arkansas. But
I'm now an Okie, though.
now you're an Okie, and you have actually not only written but illustrated this really intriguing book called Once Upon a Highway, Route 66 in Oklahoma. What prompted you to do something like this?
Well, as an architect, I'm interested in buildings, and moving to Oklahoma about 12 years ago, became intrigued with a lot of the beautiful buildings I would see, and many of them seemed almost forgotten. And so I started looking at a way to do a study of these buildings, to do a graphic study of drawings, and so because I like to draw, and also when I started looking for a theme or a way to kind of tie these together, I started thinking about maybe Route 66 would be an interesting way of looking at Oklahoma buildings and how it relates along one stretch of highway, and from all the way from the northeast corner of the state to the west edge of the state where it enters Texas.
Now, interestingly enough, the illustrations in this book are drawings. They're not photographs.
Right, right. Well, I like to draw, as I said, but I find drawings allow you to maybe do a little editing, as they say, artistic license here and there, which primarily you can move a utility pole out of the way, or possibly change the shadows the way the light is coming in on the building. So the other aspect is, I think drawings, by being less defined and pure like a photograph, allows people to maybe imagine and involve themselves with the drawing maybe a little more possibly than a photograph. At least for me it works that way.
Now, have you spent the last 12 years just driving up and down Route 66 looking at these old buildings?
No, there's been a lot of other work involved in the meantime, other duties. I actually started on this in about 6 years ago, and where I started this concerted look at buildings on Route 66, and that was on a Sunday afternoon. My wife and I would go driving down from Stillwater. We'd go down to Arcadia and either go east or go west. And then eventually it led into overnight trips where we were trying to cover bases and still have where we wouldn't get stranded out or driving all night long. So over that period of time, it was looking at those things and taking photographs, making notes and sketches and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, you've done a lot more than what is in this book. So were you deeply involved in the process of elimination on this?
Yes, and that was a concern of mine, actually, because there's several things that I didn't include in the book that I would have liked to have included. And I could see that there might be some people that say, well, hold it, this is one of my favorite buildings, or why isn't this in the book? And so they're just kind of the size of the book had to start to be pared down a little bit in some areas.
Well, I noticed that you have a certain fascination with signs, motel signs for the most part.
Signs are a big component of Route 66, and certainly in the foreword, Gaylord Sartain suggests this note of the neon lights being like a beaded necklace along the Route 66, and so that's very much, I think, a part of the aura or image of Route 66 and mm-hmm. most highways, but certainly Route 66.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I noticed that you included a number of buildings that have actually already disappeared or are in the process of disappearing. This one particular tumble-down barn is very poignant, I think.
Well, it is. It has, of course, I like barns, and I think there's a purity and an honesty to farm structures that, especially the vernacular basis of these buildings, I really am enthusiastic about. And this one just seemed again, it starts to suggest those notions of things that are deteriorating slowly or in some cases rapidly along Route 66.
Mm-hmm. And I also enjoyed this one, which is you included a vintage motor vehicle in here.
Yes, right,
well.
right. One of the old Cortez vans, which is interesting about that. I when I was at the site at the Blue Top Motel, I saw this van, and so when I took the photograph about maybe a month or two later in Route 66 magazine, there was an entire article on these vans. So that's how I was able to identify it and know where it came from or what kind of van it was.
Now, this is actually a centennial project, the book, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And these are actually really special books because they are all signed by the author.
Right, and numbered.
And now, are they going to be available in bookstores, or do you have to contact New Forums Press?
You can contact the press, their office, New Forums Press, but it's also available in selected gift shops and bookstores in Oklahoma. It's not. It's more of a specialty type of gift book, so it's we won't probably see it in the larger bookstore chains.
So you'd have to go to the local, your local bookstore as opposed to one of the national chains.
Right. On the press's website, they list stores where it is being currently offered.
Good. And we've had the website up so people can check that out and find out where. Now, I have to hold this up because the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum has been very gracious about allowing me to interview people there. So we're going to have to talk about the Cowboy Hall.
Oh, by all means, by all means. It's one of my favorite places.
Now, interestingly, you chose that very odd shaped canopy that they have at the entrance there.
True, true. Well, it was, again, it's one of those recognizable features to the building that announces the entry, starts to set the stage maybe for the visitors, especially first-time visitors. And there's a certain quality of vibrancy to it that again reflects some of the character of Route 66.
We've concentrated, I think, mostly in the area near Oklahoma City, but you do have some wonderful drawings of the Art Deco buildings, particularly in Tulsa, that are available. So this would be, I think, a great book for somebody to pick up and use and just travel the route, looking and seeing if they can identify the buildings.
Well, hopefully so. Yeah, I'd hope it would generate interest in not only the architecture, but the places and the people and the landscape along those edges.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me. My pleasure.
We've had John Calvin Womack with us talking about Route 66, Once Upon a Highway, and you can find this book at specialty bookstores, or you could go to the website, www.newforums.com, and find out just where you can pick up this book.
Hi, I'm Donna Morris, Executive Director of the Metropolitan Library System. 2007 will mark Oklahoma's centennial year. 100 years is a long time, but public libraries have been part of this community since the very beginning. And we're still exactly the same as we've been all along, your primary source for information and entertainment. The delivery methods are different now than in the early days. Today we provide free wireless access, free internet access, DVDs, CDs, free programming for people of all ages, along with the traditional books, magazines, and newspapers. But what hasn't changed is our dedication to helping you find exactly what you need. Librarians continue to be the guides to the up-to-date world of information, and our librarians at MLS are the best in the business. So visit your neighborhood MLS library soon, and as they say in the world of libraries, come check us out.
Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next week.